Well, the summer heat wears everything down. I know my energy just plummets in that really hot weather, and that goes for the flowers in the garden too. But some flowers persist and bloom no matter how hot it gets outside. Welcome to the Creative Season YouTube channel. This is Melissa, and I'm so happy to paint for 20 minutes with you as we take time to celebrate the beautiful things that stay the same. I had the honor of spending a few hours in a new friend's garden when I was visiting California. Aren't these flowers just gorgeous? This garden had endured heat of up to 113 degrees for several weeks. So many of the flowers were done in, but not all of them. We're going to paint one of the flowers that persisted, the lovely zinnia. No matter how hot it gets, the zinnia keeps on blooming. And so we're celebrating that reliability and endurance of these happy, persistent flowers. I think there's a quiet lesson for us and their persistence as well. If you've painted with me before, you know I love the bright and bold colors, but today we're going to be painting some of those beautiful muted colors that you saw in the pictures of the zinnia. So I am so glad you're here. Let's get our painting supplies together and get set up and get ready to paint these lovely, beautiful flowers. Happy summer. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Creative Season YouTube series. We are in a season where our theme is celebrating things that don't change, that stay the same. And this week we're painting zinnias. So I was looking over some zinnias I've been painting, and we're really going to focus on the zinnias at the end of summer. So a little bit more pale, a little bit more muted. Not that this was just a fun one I was working on that I didn't like how the background came out. You may have painted this one with me if you've taken my quick start to watercolor guide. We're going to do something a little bit different today, and we're not necessarily going to we'll maybe do a little bit of splattering, but really as we get into this, I really want to focus on actually some of the way that the zinnias look towards the end of the season. And they are one of the flowers that will stick around even through terribly hot weather, and they persevere, but they definitely start to fade, and yet they're just so beautiful and so happy as they give us their encore moments. So here is, I'm going to sketch with you. I have my pencil sketch, but I'm going to go ahead and go over it with pen so you can see it. So I'm very quickly going to go through that real fast here. And if you want to sketch with me, please feel free. So we have a 4x6 and then a 5x7 down here. And what I'm going to do is with this one, we have that flower that has really just kind of given itself up. You know, the things that stay the same. And again, zinnias every year, they're happy, they're cheerful, and when those triple digit days come, they just stay the same, which they just continue to persevere. So on my trip to California a couple of weeks ago, it was so wonderful. I was able to just enjoy some gardens of friends and family. And one of the gardens that I visited, they had been had a couple of weeks of triple digits, like in the 110s, 113 I think was the max, and so many of the flowers just did not make it, just didn't make it. But the zinnias persisted, and I love that. So this particular zinnia, and I showed the picture in that intro, you know, you can tell when they're about spent, when they're middle, it almost looks like those the little guys in the seedlings are about to spread out, and zinnias do have a tendency to come back the following year, even though I think they're annuals and not even perennials. So again, that's one zinnia. Again, that big center as those seedlings are about to almost have that crisscross shape at the top, whether the birds have eaten them or the wind has just blown them away. I'm just going to move this camera back just a little bit so you can see now the bottom one a little bit better. So again, moving this back, and then once again I've got two zinnias in this one. I just thought it would be fun to have two of them, something a little bit different. But you notice too, we're painting horizontally today instead of vertically. And I know we've painted zinnias before on the YouTube channel, but I don't think we've painted horizontally before. So just mixing things up. And again, I'm just going and sketching out my petals. Now you'll notice that the zinnia petals are long and extended. They almost have like these little divots in them at the very end, and it just kind of goes up and out in this particular species. And I'm just going to do that little divot, and they almost the petals almost fall out kind of like a waterfall. In some zinnias, they have layers upon layers of petals. These particular ones, they don't. They have a little bit more, not quite a single layer, but just maybe 2 layers. And I find they're a little bit easier to paint when I'm not trying to do tons upon tons of layers. They definitely are overlapping each other. Okay, and then I have got one coming out right here. And then right over here, I've got this little guy. Again, the petals are stretching out. You'll notice I made one a little bit higher than the other, just for the sake that they wouldn't be running into each other. And again, I'm going to just do the ends. This one was a little bit thicker. They weren't quite as sprayed out with their little X's, but we've got the zinnias here. I had one more petal here. And over here on this petal, it was definitely, we have a thicker face right here that we'll paint that in. And I'm just going to sketch my petals. And feel free at any time if you want to just pause the video after I've completely sketched it and then just copy it. And I'm just doing a very light sketch all the way around. This is just going to help me lay out the colors. We're once again celebrating the things that don't change, and we're doing it in 20 minutes or less as we just take a little bit of time and paint the beauty of zinnias. So now that we have our zinnias all together now, and this one, and again, you'll notice they look maybe a little bit different than the zinnias we painted because we are painting them at summer's end, right? So here they are looking lovely, but they're also looking a little bit like they're at the end of their life. So a little bit, just a little spent is probably the best word I can think of. A little bit faded and yet still beautiful and still persevering. So let's go ahead and get our paint ready. Okay, I want to show you what paint colors I have. I'm going to recommend you use the lightest lemon yellow that you have. Either a lemon yellow or a cadmium yellow light hue will be great. If you have a cadmium yellow medium hue, that will work fine too, but I'm going to encourage you to just water it down a little bit more. We'll use a little bit of this one. Have a pink, a purple will help. We're going to just do a little bit of shadowing, and then a green. Now I've got a couple of greens. There's a warm sap green that was already in this palette, and then I really enjoy having a cooler green. So either grab like a hooker's green or a Viridian green. Either one of those will work. But you just need one green. Pick whatever is your favorite, and we are going to go ahead and get started. So again, we're going to go ahead and pick up, we're going to start with the middle of our flower, which is usually that yellow center. Sometimes it's different colors, but on these ones it is a yellow center. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come in a little bit closer so you can see that a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead and use, this is a size, I believe it's a 4, and I believe it is a 4, but your round tip, and go ahead and pick up your yellow paint. And I'm going to talk a little bit about zinnias as we add in our centers. Zinnias, they can withstand that heat so well. They tend to come back year after year, even though I think technically they are annual flowers. I know in my mom's garden, she loves zinnias, and they just pop back up here, there, and everywhere. I'm going to go ahead and do both flowers at the same time here. Now I am going to, on this guy, add in a bit of the cadmium yellow because he was a little bit darker in this face. So if you want to mix the yellows up a little bit, you can also create a little bit of an orange color. We're going to do that, mix in our pink and our yellow. Now, before we start, one of the things I'm going to do with this one up here is I'm going to do just a very light yellow background. And since we're working on a couple paintings today, I know I can just let this dry for a quick minute. Move this a little bit up so you can see this here. And just move it around right in here. Not quite touching my petals. And it's a wash. It is just a wash, so it's not on a super harsh background of that bright white. I love a white background, but sometimes I want to just add a little bit of color to make everything pop a little bit. And you could even add a little bit more yellow if you want to into the wash and to brighten things up. But then I'm going to let it dry while we work on the painting below. And sometimes I like to work on multiple paintings at once. It's just fun to see them come together, and also it helps to with my impatience, because I do get a little impatient, and then I try to paint too quickly, and then things get muddy or merge together in ways I don't want them to. That happens a lot. All right, so let's go ahead down here, and over here we're going to go ahead and work on our petals. Now again, we're doing things a little bit differently. We're going to do a little bit more of muted, instead of the bright pink colors that we've often done, or bright orange. I'm going to mix together that yellow and pink, and I'm going to actually put it in a different area. We're going to get this pretty watered down here, and I want it really watery and a lot of yellow in there. Add a little bit more pink, and then what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to come up here, and even starting on the edge. Okay, good. I'll back up the camera so you can see that a little bit better. There. I'm going to start moving around the petals. Now you'll see in the picture, I was taking the pictures in the middle of the day, so it was very bright light. And so you can see a lot of white on the petals because there was just so much sunshine. So I am going to kind of work around here and pick up a little bit more color. But you notice that this is not overly bright. It's almost like a faded orange. This is a petal too, so we're just going to work that around here. And zinnias, just like, well, not all flowers, but I noticed that the zinnias, they will tend to fade in their coloring. They start out super bright and then they just fade a bit as the season endures. I love being able to cut them, and then more heads come up, which is always so much fun, but it seems like the last batch in August, they really have a hard time of it, don't they? As they bloom in that August heat. All right, I'm going to take the pink now and mix the pink with a little bit of yellow. And then over here, you can see now this is more pink and less yellow. And once again, I'm moving around. We're going to add a little bit of purple and yellow. Purple is on the opposite end of this color spectrum, or it goes right across from yellow, and it's a beautiful complementary color. Really nice for shadowing. And so again, moving this around, I'm still leaving quite a bit of a white space out. I'm looking at where the colors are focused in. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit more pink because I noticed some of these petals, you can see a little bit more color around the edges. And so I'm just going to tap in that color. But this is very gentle. You know, summer with its heat, we're all low energy, right? Or lower energy, I should say, in the summertime, and so are the flowers a little bit. It's always interesting that the color palette, the natural color palette of the seasons, always sings together. And the color palette of summer are colors that are cool, delicate, a bit understated. They kind of have less energy than, I'm going to add a little bit of pink over here in my other one. Less energy than the spring, and definitely less energy than the fall colors. Fall colors come out muted, strong, warm, just a very different energy to the fall. But summer is almost encouraging us to relax, to come and enjoy the flowers a little bit. I know I try to take extra walks, and another thing that doesn't stay, that changes that stays the same and doesn't change. Let's pick up just a little bit of purple. I'm actually going to mix the purple with some yellow, and then I'll finish up that thought. So I'm going to pick up yellow in the corner over here. If you pick up a bit of pink, that's fine, and just a little bit of purple. And then I'm going to pick up more yellow and just a little bit of purple until you almost get this bit of a shadowy color. You can add a little bit of pink if you want, and then come back with that, and we're going to go ahead and mix I'm going to put right by the base of where the face of the flower is and where all the little sprouty guys are coming out. I'm going to put some shadowing over there, and then on some of those petals, under where they are underneath, I'm going to add some shadowing there. I'm going to add a little bit more purple into my shadow, just so it's a little bit of a variation of color. And then over here, I was just about to say too, another thing that that doesn't change but stays the same. It's just the beauty of the summer garden, where it's just extra sweet to go and spend some time in the garden or enjoy other people's gardens or the park. I was walking through the park one day as I was coming back from the ferry, and there was a volunteer taking care of trimming up some of the bushes and the flowers, and we just talked for a minute, and just both of us agreed how lovely it is to have a park to enjoy. And it's so wonderful that we have people who take care of the park. Now I just got a little bit of my shadowing where I didn't want to, so I'm just going to come back and I'm just going to dab this area that's supposed to be green with my paper towel. Okay, we're going to come back up now, just come back a little bit and go ahead and pick up your green. We're going to paint all the stems together. And see too, again, this is a different look for us, right? We're usually painting really bright, really happy, which I still love, will always love. But just looking at the beauty of zinnias, of celebrating the things that stay the same. And I think the end of summer invites us to just do a little bit of slowing down. As it's super hot out, we don't have to completely capitulate to it like many of the other flowers in the gardens do. But we, along with the zinnias, just enjoy a little bit of chill time right before the hustle and bustle of fall comes, which is going to come all too soon. Now, I'm going to go ahead here and just add in my green for my stems. Now, you'll notice too that underneath it's a lot more green, and then it fades a little bit, or it's a greener, I should say. So I'm going to just dab it in a little bit darker. Yeah, my color mixed a little bit. I'm just going to let it go though. I am going to come over here though and add some yellow just right down here where it is going to be a little bit lighter. And we're going to just let that rest for a minute, and I'm going to move back up to the other painting. This guy up here who's been waiting for us to return, right? Okay, so we're going to move over here, and then with this one, let's go ahead and paint just a light orange. So I'm going to have a little bit more pink in that yellow. So just a little bit brighter, just for the sake of something a little bit different. And it's fun to kind of say, okay, which zinnia color do I like the best? I have to say, I love all of them. They're all so beautiful. The orange, that beautiful, it almost turns into a burnt orange as we get closer to fall. I do think is lovely. I think it just stays just as pretty as it looked when it was beautiful and in the earlier months. Just moving that around. Again, don't forget just to leave some white. That's going to allow the paint to, the whole flower to look like it's popping off the page. It's almost getting a three-dimensional look. We're going to add a little bit of purple to this flower too. We're not doing tons of shadowing because we are just kind of staying within that 20-minute window. And so I don't want to get too complicated. So I'm going to just take a little bit of purple and I'm going to move it underneath here where the little face of our flower is about to move off into the wind. I'm going to take a little bit of purple right again where I just see some shadowing and just dabbing it in. Even maybe just a little bit at the base of the stem, and then I'm going to pick up my green and lay that green in there too. You can certainly let it dry. I'm being a little bit daring here, aren't I? Okay, we're going to let that stay for a minute. We're going to just let it dry. If you think to yourself, I just got a little bit too much purple in there, not a big deal. Take that dry brush and just sop up a little bit of the color. And if you think to yourself, you know what, the zinnias that I have, maybe you have some live zinnias with you, or you just want to paint them a little bit more orange, either grab an orange off your palette or just mix a little bit more yellow and pink together. I can do that here. And then you can see I even added a little bit more cadmium, and you can get it real orange if you'd like. And you can let that dance together. The cadmium the cadmium yellow is a bit more opaque, and you'll notice that it doesn't always play as well with the other colors, and so it will take over, which is fine. just as long as you know that. I always have to remind myself. Cadmium yellow medium hue likes to be the center of attention. And that is just fine. Okay, so we're gonna let that sit. I'm gonna come back here and just look at my lower two, or my bottom zinnias here. I am really liking these guys. I think they're very, very pretty. I like the way they are looking. I'm not gonna do too much to them except to add just a little bit more green. Just a little bit more green right in here. And I am gonna do just the littlest bit of splatter. I'm gonna put a little bit in here. And so with the splatter, I'm just gonna splatter a bit of green right over here, not a ton. Just all the way around. You can certainly let the whole painting dry if you want. It will blend just a little bit with our colors. And I'm gonna take a little bit of that yellow pink that we had, that more muted color. So what do you think? The summer muted colors are not my favorite, but I really appreciate them. I appreciate what they signify as we're really moving from summer into fall. And that's another thing that stays the same, as fall always comes after summer. And I love that consistency in life. We know what's coming next, and the fall season has so many gifts. But for today, we will celebrate the gift that summer has for us, which is to relax, enjoy the beauty of the last summer flowers in these beautiful weeks of August. You might have some roses in your yard that are persisting. You might have zinnias. You might have bougainvilleas, which always seem to do really well in the heat too. Let me know what flowers are blooming in your yard or your park that you enjoy walking through. And we will continue to celebrate the things that don't change next week. I have loved painting and talking about gardens and summer and zinnias, beautiful flowers that no matter how hot it gets, they continue blooming. They stay the same each season.